right. Let us begin on time. I welcome all of our viewers to this conference, to this summit, which deals with the question of how to protect your business in the 21st century. My name is Dr. Gil Yaron. I'm the director of the new office of the state of North Rhine-Westphalia for economy, science, education, youth and culture in Israel. And I'm very happy that so many people have joined our illustrious panel to deal with this question, which is becoming ever more pressing in the 21st century. Joining us in the beginning are two of the main organizers of this event, which is State Secretary Dr. Max Planck from the State Chancellery of North Rhine-Westphalia and Felix Neugart, the Managing Director of NRW.Global Business. Dr. Max Planck has been serving as State Secretary for Federal, European and International Affairs of the state of North Rhine-Westphalia, as well as the state's plenipotentiary to the federal government in Berlin since 2017. Dr. Planck was educated at Collegium Josephinum in Bonn, Pembroke College, University of Cambridge, and the University of Bonn, where he studied modern history, political science, and constitutional law. Mr. Felix Neugart is the Managing Director of NRW.Global Business, which is the official foreign trade promotion company of the state of North Rhine-Westphalia. He has many years of expertise in the field of foreign trade and has already held various management and consulting positions in Germany as well as abroad. From 2006 to 2016, he held several positions at the Association of German Chambers of Industry and Commerce in Berlin, where he was head of the Foreign Trade Policy and Law Department, among others. Felix Neugart also has experience in the Middle East. He managed the German Emirati Chamber of Industry and Commerce in Dubai, and also served as delegate of German business for Qatar, Kuwait, Oman, and Iraq. Back in Germany, Mr. Neugart became Managing Director International at the Chamber of Industry and Commerce in Düsseldorf before assuming his current position. But before we begin with the lectures themselves, it is my honor and pleasure to welcome Dr. Max Planck, our State Secretary, to address us with his opening speech for this pleasant event. Dr. Planck, the floor is all yours.
Thank you very much, Gil Yaron, for this friendly introduction. And a warm welcome to all of you on the screens, ladies and gentlemen, dear experts. A little more than a year ago, it was on March the 1st last year, the Minister-President of North Rhine-Westphalia, Armin Laschet, opened the office of the state of North Rhine-Westphalia in Israel. And as Gil Yaron has already given you the whole name, I can spare you that. So I just call it the office of the state of North Rhine-Westphalia in Israel. The rationale for this office is twofold. One is rooted in the past, very clearly so. Germany's unique responsibility for the Jewish state as one consequence of the Shoah forms part of the foundation of our special relationship with Israel, which is of the utmost importance to North Rhine-Westphalia. The opening of our office in Israel is therefore, on the one hand, a historic signal. It is a sign that our state's government stands by its friends in Israel. We stress this, especially in these days, shortly after the most serious clashes in years between Israel and militant Palestinians. But the opening also opens up new perspectives, paving ways for the future. The office strives to become a place of encounter, well, difficult enough in those times, bringing together young people, adults, business people, and experts from North Rhine-Westphalia and Israel. And much like during a panel discussion of experts from Israel and North Rhine-Westphalia about strategies for combating the COVID-19 pandemic. The virus as a new global challenge has demonstrated how important it is that we face common problems together. And I'm very glad that we have this opportunity to continue the work, even though, well, the circumstances were more than challenging. Today, we are bringing experts together again, admittedly to debate viruses of a different nature, but not less dangerous. The successful ransom attack on US pipeline operator Colonial Pipeline has once again demonstrated how vulnerable the economy, the infrastructure, and even our very democracies are to cyber attacks. Cybercrime has become a major threat to the world economy. The Allianz Risk Barometer of last year names cybersecurity incidents as the #1 business risk on a global scale. And according to a study by trade association Bitkom, the annual economic damage caused by cybercrime in Germany alone amounts to more than 100 billion euros a year. Effective law enforcement is important to maintain trust in digital infrastructures, but preventive measures that identify cyber risks and implement appropriate protective measures are no less important. Israel is known as a cyber superpower. With events like today's conference, Rhine-Westphalia's office in Israel strives to help mitigate cyber risks by providing up-to-date information and intensifying the exchange of knowledge and experience between experts from both countries. Thus, I'm very confident that the abilities of German companies to protect themselves from cybercrime can be improved with the help of close cooperation with our Israeli friends to the benefit of both countries. And now I look forward what certainly will be an exciting event. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Speich. From here, we go right in the middle of things. One of the lectures that has probably intrigued most of you is the guest lecture by Mr. Tamir Parr. Tamir Parr is the co-founder and current president of XM Cyber. From 2011 to 2016, Mr. Parr served as the director of the Mossad, not an institution we really have to introduce, but for the sake of form, I will say it's the National Intelligence Agency of Israel and one of the main entities in the Israeli intelligence community. He joined the service in 1979 and served through all levels of command before assuming the overall leadership of the Mossad in 2011. He's one of the best known and most respected public figures in Israel and also around the world. And he's also serving as the Lamont Lecturer at Harvard University. Mr. Parr, the floor is all yours, and we're all very, very interested in hearing what you have to say.
Thank you very much. It's a great honor being here today. Guten Tag. Well, you know, when I was a young officer, it was many, many years ago, I got a book from my father. The name of the book was The Art of War by Sun Tzu. And I remember a chapter there that is with me from those first days, the Special Operation Unit in the Israeli Defense Forces, until the last day, or even until today. Sun Tzu, that lived 2,500 years ago, 2,500 years ago, was a philosopher, a Chinese philosopher, that said something that is quite important. If you know your enemy and you know yourself, you always win. No problem at all. If you know yourself and you don't know your enemy, or vice versa, if you don't know yourself and you know your enemy, you're going to win 50% of the battles. And if you don't know yourself and you don't know your enemy, you're going to lose in every battle. This small and very simple phrases were with me for more than 43 years in service. When we were discussing cybersecurity, until a few years ago, it was a problem that was a problem for tech people only. CEOs and chairmen and board directors never had to know the enemy. They had to know themselves. They had to know their competitors, and that was enough to create a good, even excellent company. But today, and it was mentioned just a minute ago, cyber is the worst thing that happened in the last 200 years to every company, to every country. I determine cyber as the new battleground. I determine cyber as a silent nuclear weapon. The moment it's used, it kills. It kills everything. If in the past, the problem was, if there was a war, it was a war between two armies, that one tried to defeat the other. Today, armies are not important. Defense forces are not important. You can defeat a state, you can defeat a company by using cyber attacks capabilities. And it is not understood. For the moment, CEOs still think that, as it was in the past, that the state, the government will solve the problem. No, my dear friends, the country, the government is unable to solve the problem. They can assist you to solve the problem. They can assist you, CEO, chairman, or board director, to see that there is a problem, but we, every company, should solve the problem by itself. And that's the main problem, that CEOs, chairmen do not understand it. According to some latest research, 85% of the breaches still related to financial motivation. Cybercrime became a huge business which affects all the world economy. And we must understand it. On top of it, the COVID era brought out another problem, because we started to work from our homes. We started to use Zoom and all other remote access capabilities. And that is just heaven for any cyber attacker. If until that day, 15 years ago, the problem was that cyber was in the hands of countries with great capabilities, like Germany, like Israel, the United States, the UK, and others. Today, every country on the globe can have cyber attack capabilities, and quite good one. And more than that, crime gangs have those capabilities as well. And with a small investment, they can get a lot. The ROI for those cybercrime gangs is the best ever created. And from time to time, we have a combination of those cyber gangs that are, let's say, controlled or hired by governments themselves, that they don't have those capabilities. That combination is horrifying and should horrify every business in the world. Even in the past, it was quite easy to define what is a critical infrastructure. Today, it's impossible, because the milk that we're drinking in the morning is a critical one. Colleges and universities are a critical one, not less than, let's say, banks or energy infrastructures for the country, electricity, and so on and so forth. Think what's going to happen if tomorrow morning, God forbid, all the data in all the universities will be deleted in a big country like the United States, Israel, small country, or Germany. What's going to happen in the streets? We're going to see all the students out there, and that's going to bring chaos. So when we are talking about cyber, we should understand that it's the problem not of the CISOs or those who are responsible for the IT It's the problem of every CEO, every chairman, and every board director in every company, in every municipality, in every university, wherever it is. And on top of it, when we are discussing the Industry 4.0 initiatives that bring the problem to a higher level, and that should be a red light that is not only blipping, that is constantly lighted to every chairman, to every CEO. Because now everything is connected to everything. The network to those who are services that we are asking, let's say, our lunch to bringing into our industry, to every cell phone that is connected to our network, to our families that are using our cell phone or our notebook in order to play games. When later hours we are using it to be connected to our company, everything is open, everything is flat. And the main problem today is that we don't know how to protect our crown jewels. It's impossible to protect everything. We should find out where are our crown jewels and protect them. We must understand there is too much data, too much tools, broken processes, and buying and buying and buying all cyber gadgets. It's a bottomless pit. We should understand that in order to buy the right thing, we should protect ourselves, not after we've been attacked, but before the attack is taken care. And to do that, we need to know all the tricks that the attackers, the hackers, has in their pockets, in their mind. And if you have such a solution, take it and do it fast. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Parr, for this lecture, which is, I think, gives us a lot to think about. And I want just to remind all of our participants that we have a Q&A function here. And as a matter of fact, after our lectures, after the next two lectures, there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions. So please make use of that to get into direct touch with our lecturers. Now, you said the government cannot solve the problem, but it's definitely trying to. And we have someone here who is trying to help to reduce the ROI of criminal gangs when they perform cybercrime, and that is Mr. Markus Hartman. Mr. Markus Hartman is a senior prosecutor at the Prosecutor's Office of Cologne and director of the North Rhine-Westphalian Central Cybercrime Department, in German Zentral- und Ansprechstelle Cybercrime ZAC NRW. Hartman's team of about 30 prosecutors and specialists is in charge of any high-profile cybercrime case related to North Rhine-Westphalia. The department's responsibilities include cyber attacks on critical infrastructures and corporations, as well as darknet and high-tech hacking investigations. The ZAC NRW acts as a central point of contact for law enforcement agencies, scientific and economic institutions, and corporations with regard to cybercrime-related issues. It also serves as a liaison office for the cyber mutual legal assistance requests. Hartman has more than a decade of experience in cyber investigations, and he has been a speaker at numerous national and international conferences and meetings, very much to the pleasure of his listeners. That's why I'm very happy to greet him here and hear what he has to say about how to reduce the ROI of cybercrime.
Yeah, thank you very much for the very kind introduction. Thank you for having me here today, because I'm really excited about the opportunity to exchange a few remarks and a few observations on cybercrime and the perspective it provides for businesses. But in order to give you a better understanding about the things I'd like to point out, I think it's only fair to give you a quick introduction about the responsibilities and the cases we're in charge of. So I would just like to point out a few remarks about the infrastructure that is actually trying to solve a few of the problems that Mr. Pardo mentioned in his keynote. While I agree with a lot of things he has put on the table, I'm still confident that at least we can add a little additional value to the equation of whether cybercrime makes sense and this is a useful business case. So just a short overview. As Mr. Jaron mentioned, we are in charge of cybercrime in a more narrow understanding, which is attacks on critical infrastructures, darknet operations, cyber organized crime, or in general, cybercrime, major cybercrime cases. But we are also in charge of outstanding cases when it comes to digital enabled crime, which, for example, is combating child sexual abuse and the spread of child sexual abuse material online, and let me move me a little bit, and digital hate crime, whatever that means in a broader sense. But for today's topic, I would like to concentrate on the infrastructural aspects of cybercrime and what it means for businesses and government infrastructure. What really is interesting is that, well, let's put it that way, the pace of critical attacks has become very fast lately. We've seen a lot of news coverage about different cybercrime incidents, and I think it's worthwhile, in the sense of knowing your enemy, to analyze what really happened. The SolarWinds, you're seeing news coverage from some online publications. The SolarWinds hack was the prototype of a hack when somebody was attacking not directly the intended target, but the digital supply chain. It's quite difficult for a company, for example, or for government infrastructure to defend itself when the attack is not going directly at its defenses, but when it's going at some third party who is providing software digital services and who you usually trust. So here we saw that hundreds of government agencies and businesses got affected by an attack on a critical digital supply chain. But there's more to come and more to do for cyber criminals. We're seeing more and more professional level of exploiting 0 days, that is unpatched vulnerabilities in standard software stacks. And one very good example, also very recent, is the Microsoft Exchange server vulnerability, or proxy logon as it was dubbed by the people who discovered the security vulnerability, which affected tens of thousands of organizations worldwide, and which shows that criminals are very efficient and very professional when, in order to find unpatched vulnerabilities and to exploit them in a very swift and very timely manner from their perspective. So we have digital supply chain, we have attacks on unpatched vulnerabilities, and the third overall topic that we're seeing almost every day today is the threat of ransomware attacks. Ransomware being a piece of malware, a piece of software, which is encrypting all data available in the company's network or company servers, and asks for ransom in order to provide the decryption keys. Here, seeing news coverage from one of our cases where the University Hospital of Düsseldorf got attacked, data encrypted, and thus the medical capabilities, the medical services of this hospital very deeply affected. I think ransomware is not only very interesting as a present phenomenon of cybercrime, but it's also very interesting as a case study how cybercrime threats evolve over the time. So if you allow for just a few quick remarks about ransomware. As I said, ransomware software basically encrypting all useful data and extorting money for providing the decryption keys. In the beginning, on level 1, it was just like firing with a shotgun cartridge in the dark, seeing who you hit. It was a bulk business, mass business. You were just trying to spread ransomware malware through any channels, hoping that somebody would click on a link, would open an email attachment, stuff like that. And in order to affect as many victims as you can in order to maximize your profit. But cyber criminals very soon realized that it is more efficient, more effective to go after the precious, more valuable targets. So they reached level 2. And level 2 was targeted attacks. Nowadays, we usually see when it comes to ransomware cases that the cyber criminals focus on the economic and financial circumstances of the attack company, and thus trying to find the sweet spot in their ransom note between not asking too much and risking not getting paid, and not asking too little and losing money. So it's targeted attacks compromising networks of companies the attackers know or try to know through the information they see in the networks. Companies adjust. They are improving their backup policies, because the easiest way, of course, to defend against a ransomware attack is if you can, in a very timely manner, rebuild your infrastructure, recover your data from backups. So what is level 3 of the ransomware evolution? It is double barrel attacks. It's a twofold threat. Nowadays, cyber criminals not only threaten to encrypt your data and not release the encryption key, but they also threaten to release your data, your customers' data, your trade secrets, whatever they exfiltrated from your networks in public. And it's very difficult to defend against this kind of threat with a good set of backups. So level 3 is a twofold double barrel attack. And finally, they've reached level 4, which I would call ransomware as a service. Today, we see that the professional level of interaction between different cybercriminal gangs reach a level that one gang is specializing in compromising companies and government networks, building a bridgehead inside it, and then going on selling the access to the compromised network to some other cybercrime gang, who is then doing the actual extortion scheme. And the second gang is using a third and a fourth and a fifth gang for financial operations, for money laundering, and so on. So what are the lessons to be learned from that? I very much agree with Mr. Pardo that the vast majority of cybercrime cases today is financially motivated. It's all about money. And while I agree that it is a business scheme from the perspective of cyber criminals, I think from a forensic standpoint, from a criminalistic standpoint, this also provides a few ideas on how to deal with it. Because if somebody is only financially motivated, the easiest thing to do is put a price tag to the things cyber criminals do. And the price tag should be prosecution. If we raise the cost of cybercrime by disrupting infrastructures, by arresting people, by putting them to their responsibility, putting them in court, I think it will be a very useful and very helpful instrument in order to deal with the present level of cybercrime. Well, I just claimed everything is financially motivated. That is almost the truth. We should not forget about other motivations which fall under the logo of 3-level agency attacks. Of course, as Mr. Pardo mentioned, also, well, at least from the level of resources used, the code quality, the level of sophistication used in attacks, there are very precise indications that we have also government supported and government enabled infrastructures committing cybercrime, sometimes in a dual use fashion, that cybercrime and cyber espionage, cyber sabotage are committed via the same channels. But we should also keep in mind that government supported cybercrime infrastructures are often also used for disrupting democratic societies, something that could also cause a very severe damage. So coming to an end of my introductory remarks, the interesting question for us is, what can we do about it? I think I will not agree with Mr. Pardo that every business has to defend itself. Yes, in a certain way, that's true. But in the end, it's also the government's responsibility to provide a clever strategy how to improve the situation. And one thing I would like to point out is there are many things we can do, of course. But something we can totally do is improve and learn from that what the bad guys are doing. The bad guys are cooperating globally. And I think there's much room to improve in the field of cooperation between law enforcement agencies internationally, of course. But also we should narrow the gaps between law enforcement and the intelligence community to the extent permitted by law, of course. And finally, and that is something that is really exciting for me in today's discussion, is we should also build bridges between law enforcement and the tech sector. My department is in charge of, well, identifying useful tools, building contacts with the industry, with the tech sector, in order to see what we can do to improve our online capabilities as law enforcement agencies. And that's why I think such an intersectoral exchange as we're having today is really useful. So let's come to my final remark. I very much agree with what former President Obama mentioned during the Stanford Summit in 2015. He said there's only one way to defend America, that's government and the private sector working together as true partners. And what applies to America in this sense also applies to the global community. So I strongly urge everybody, improve on the cooperation, and I think we will be able to prove that also the government has something to provide for the safety of the global online community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hartman, for this really very, very interesting lecture. As you've heard, not only as you've heard that the bad guys are evolving and their methods are evolving, and there are some people who try to work on it, that also the good guys are getting better tools to defend themselves, and that's where research comes in. And for that, we have invited Professor Dr. Christoph Parr, who is the founding director of the Max Planck Institute for Security and Privacy in Bochum, Germany, and research professor at the University of Massachusetts Amherst. He's the spokesperson of the DFG Cluster of Excellence Cybersecurity in the Age of Large-Scale Adversaries, and he's coordinator of the Cybersecurity Incubator Cube 5 and co-founder of Script GmbH, which was recently acquired by Bosch. I thank you very much, Mr. Parr, for joining us from the Max Planck Institute and giving us your insights. And I again want to remind everyone to please use the Q&A options so we can pose your questions at the end of this lecture. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the kind introduction. I take the liberty to use slides as well. Okay, I hope everybody can see my slides. Yeah. So yeah, I want to talk a little bit about the what we think is a quite useful cybersecurity infrastructure in Bochum, which is centrally located in the state of North Rhine-Westphalia. So first, a high-level view. There are a lot of different institutions and groupings in Bochum that help improving the cybersecurity landscape. But the main players are probably the Max Planck Institute that Mr. John just mentioned. Then we have Ruhr-Uni Bochum, who's very, very powerful in that area. And we also have Cube 5, which is in startup incubator, which is dedicated to cybersecurity. And I want to elaborate a little bit more on the different elements that we have. So the Max Planck Institutes, for people particularly coming from abroad, these are federally funded research institutions. They are, somewhat elite, and we try to do top-notch research in there. So we got a new MPI started 2 years ago. Eventually, we will be 18 people, 18 faculty, 6 directors, and 12 junior people. Right now, we're about 8 people. It's Jill Bart and mine. Jill is from France. She's one of the top people in programming language security. Myself, I work in hardware security. You don't have to memorize what's on the slides. Don't worry, right? So Asha Biega is doing a very exciting interdisciplinary stuff. So she's working on fairness on the internet and also at cybersecurity and fairness. Marcel Böhme is he's running our institute next month, actually, from Australia. He's one of the leading authorities on modern software security. Catalin does the theoretical aspects of software security. He's originally from Romania. We recruited him from Paris. Giulio Malavolta, we recruited him from UC Berkeley. He's one of the top people in modern cryptography. Peter Schwabe, we got recruited him from Nijmegen, from the Netherlands. Some of you might have heard the term quantum computers. And the thing, in order to protect our landscape, once we have quantum computer, we have to use so-called post-quantum cryptography, and Peter is one of the top people. Yasmin Akar is one of the leading scientists internationally in the area of usable security, and Clara Schneidewind is working on an issue that all of us have heard about, namely blockchain and security of blockchains. So that gives you maybe just an idea what are like hot modern topics in cybersecurity research. In Bochum, that means not only MPI, but in particular also Ruhr University Bochum, we do a lot of projects here. This is just a sample, representative sample of what we're doing. And the project we're most proud of is the Cluster of Excellence, which is a very competitive process administered by the German DFG, the National Science Foundation in Germany. There are only 2 DFG Cluster of Excellence in informatics, and one is in cybersecurity. The other is actually in machine learning in Tübingen. You get a rough idea of the size of the funding. So we got 30 million euros, which is quite a bit of funding, with 22 principal investigators, that is essentially professors, and we have about 40 scientific staff, that is PhD students and postdocs, and that runs for 7 years. And the idea is to particularly focus on the threats that we get coming from these really well-funded attackers, which is what Markus Hartman mentioned before. So in particular, nation-state attackers. So to give you yet another insight how we structure ourselves, on the left-hand side, you see the 4 research areas: future cryptography, embedded security, that's essentially hardware security, secure system and usability, that means the human aspects. What we do is we're not working, which is maybe would be the old model, right? On the left-hand side, you do top-notch research and that's it. And somebody else takes care of the transfer into practice. But in CASA, we also have the CASA transfer labs. That means we're working with very important industry partners. And we try early on, how does our new research results can be used in practice? So the very close interaction with our practice partner from industry and our researchers. So what we have in Bochum is really a 3-pillar assortment of activities. The first pillar is top-notch research, which is kind of what you expect from a research institution. That's what I showed you so far. The second pillar is study and education. Namely, we started 20 years ago with defining our own dedicated bachelor and master program in cybersecurity. Everybody thought we are crazy. You don't need cybersecurity. This is just a specialization in a computer science program. But we gambled, right? We took somewhat of a gamble. We said, no, we do a grundständige Ausbildung, right? That means a bachelor Studiengang in cybersecurity. Fast forward 20 years later, we have 1,000 enrolled students, which is the biggest program in Europe. We graduate about 150 people per year, and we have 1 bachelor and 3 master program. So what you see here, the bars are the number of incoming students. And you see in recent years, we've drawn more than 300 students per year coming in the blue are the students coming into our university program. And the little green bars, this is a specialized master for distance learning. So these are all people in industry. So we're training quite a bit of the cybersecurity specialists in Germany, and we are extremely happy with that. So as part of that, we also run Germany's largest career fair in cybersecurity. We get about 500 students attending, not only from the Bochum region, but all over Germany. So there are a bunch of other universities in Germany that offer a particular master's program in cybersecurity. We have this luxury problem that we have too many companies who want to exhibit at our career fair. So, and I would like to invite you to participate. It's a really fun thing. It's free of charge, and it's a great place to network. Okay, so the third pillar, in addition to research and education, is networking and transfer into industry. What you see here, our international network partners. So we have a very rich network. I personally actually also work with the university in Haifa and with Intel in Haifa. So Israel is a very important research partner for us, not only from the commercial point, but also from a scientific point. Towards the end, the last couple of slides, I want to talk a little bit about something that we really enjoy doing, namely startups. You know, everybody's talking transfer research results into practice. How do you do that? There are different ways of doing that. So we started early on, about 2003, 2004, 2005, with startups, and this is the first generation startups you see on the right-hand side. This is Dynamics, Script, and Xerix. So there were 4 startups that were funded both by, I think, by a PhD student, by regular student, and by professors. So everybody in the academic ecosystem, and we were quite successful. So Dynamics was acquired by Google, which is great. Gil mentioned before, I co-founded the firm Script that was acquired by Bosch. And as a side remark, Bosch, driven by Script, is now setting up an R&D center in Bochum with up to 2,000 people. So this is a very great success for us, and we're very, very happy. Xerix AG was acquired by Rode Schwarz. They do a lot of military electronics, and ESITS AG was acquired by TÜV Rheinland. They offer this distance learning masters. So what you see on the left-hand side, there's another 12, and actually 4 more are missing. This is not quite up to date with respect to logos. So we have in total about 20 startups, which is not a large number, maybe absolutely speaking, but all of them survived. Most of them you see on the left-hand side, they are in A or B round with venture capital funding and very successful. So we're very happy with that. And in order to boost that number and identify even more young people who want to set up a startup in cybersecurity, we started 4 years ago with Cube 5, which is an incubator, and there are a bunch of incubators in Germany, right? Every Fachhochschule has an incubator nowadays. But we try to specialize in cybersecurity, and we provide a lot of networking experience because we have a very rich ecosystem, particularly with former students that have been a successful founder of companies. So these are great role models for our current students. We do a lot of training in terms of seminar and workshops. We have an accelerator program. And again, everything is focusing on IT security. And finally, we have access to a special support program by the BMBF, which is the German Ministry for Technology, which provides very generous support for innovative companies in the area of cybersecurity. Okay, this is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Parr. So far, you have been rather timid. There have been no questions. Maybe we'll have more at the end. So let's go right to the next part, and that enables us to stay on time. As you see, that we can describe this cooperation. Why do we have 2 organizers to this event? In a certain way, you can say that the Office of the State of North Rhine-Westphalia in Israel is responsible for building the roads between Israel and North Rhine-Westphalia. But when you get to a road, you still have to cross it. And sometimes you need someone to take you by the hand to cross it at the right spot and find the right spot on the other side. And that's what NRW.Global business is for. They can take care of you and bring you exactly to the right spot in Israel. And some of those right spots will be presented now. So we are concluding the first part of this event organized by our office, and I'm very happy that we're now entering the second part of this event, which will be directed and has been organized by NRW.Global Business. So I hand the podium now to the Managing Director, Mr. Felix Neugaard, and thank you very much for taking us by the hand and bringing us to the right people right now.
Thank you, Gil, and thank you for collaborating with NRW.Global Business in this very special and I think very great event. Dear Dr. Speich, ladies and gentlemen, let me welcome you again, also on behalf of NRW.Global Business, to the second part of this event. I had already a very kind introduction by Gil Yaron in the beginning. Let me add one more element to this. Like a long time ago, 25 years ago, actually, I studied for a year in Israel. So אני שכחתי את העברית שלי, אבל אני זוכר טוב את האנשים, את המזג אוויר, את החיים בארץ, ואני שמח להיות איתכם פה. So just some attempt at speaking Hebrew after such a long time. Yeah, as Gil Yaron mentioned, we are NRW.Global Business. We actually a very new company, the official agency of the state of North Rhine-Westphalia for investment promotion and export support. We have been merged out of two former companies. You may know NRW Invest, which deals with the support for investors, attracting investors, helping them to set up shop in North Rhine-Westphalia. And on the other hand, NRW International, which does the export promotion. We've merged these two companies in NRW.Global Business, so we now combine the two perspectives of foreign trade promotion and investment promotion. And of course, we have been dealing with these two parent companies in many ways with Israel in the past. This has already been mentioned by Dr. Speich and others, that there's a very close relationship between NRW and Israel, not only in business matters, but I think it's especially intense. We have more than 130 companies from Israel which are invested, which are present here in North Rhine-Westphalia, and some prominent examples which I can mention to you are Mobileye, Orcam, Optibus, and many more. But we believe at NRW.Global Business that there's more potential for a collaboration between like high-tech companies, startups, and of course also in the field on which we are focusing today, cybersecurity, from Israel, and on the other hand, between companies from NRW, the famous German Mittelstand, medium-sized companies, very successful internationally, but also challenged by digitalization and also by cyber challenges. And to improve and develop our partnership with Israel, we have an office in Tel Aviv, one of our 16 offices of NRW abroad, and it is headed by Sharon Masuri, whom I see here. Sharon, good to have you here, who's our representative in Israel and Tel Aviv. And together with her, we try to develop various business relationships. We have a number of activities, of tools to support companies. We are present at trade fairs with NRW joint company pavilions. We do trade missions, delegation trips, travel to Israel, and of course we do events in many ways, and also of course now due to the pandemic increasingly in a digital way, as the webinar today, where we are happy that we were able to contribute. And now we would like to broaden a little bit the range of presentations by focusing on companies which were innovative, which are cutting edge in terms of cybersecurity and business intelligence. And I will introduce to you two speakers representing these companies. Before I do that, I would like to thank our partners in choosing the companies in general and working with Israel. Is on the one hand, the Chamber of Industry and Commerce, the German Chamber of Industry and Commerce in Israel, the AHK, where Sharon Masuri is based, and the Chamber of Industry and Commerce here in the capital of North Rhine-Westphalia in Düsseldorf, and another organization which is doing a lot with Israel, the Deutsche Mittelstandsbund. Now, let me turn over to our first company speaker. This is Mr. Doron Dreyer. He is the Executive Vice President for Revenues at Intelligo. He has 25 years of experience in management. I used to study 25 years ago. He is already business representative, has served in many companies, Checkpoint Software Technologies, McAfee, SanDisk, Aero Electronics, so a whole range of companies. And he will give us now his presentation in the field of cybersecurity. Doron, over to you. You have the floor.
Hi, thank you very much for that kind introduction. And it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you everyone for taking the time to listen to the presentations, and I'll jump straight to it in order to be on time. So as was mentioned, I come from a career of cybersecurity. I've been in this industry since the late 90s. I want to talk to you today about empowering trust. One aspect of cybersecurity is being able to trust the people that you do that you do business with. So Intelligo is all about that. And I'd like to straight to jump into who Intelligo is and what we do. So Intelligo was established in 2014. We were just raised $15 million at the end of last year in the middle of COVID for round B funding. We have patented technology. And what we do is we bring artificial intelligence and machine learning to the background check world. And I'll dive a little bit deeper into that in the next couple of slides. We have 145 active customers, and we're growing on a daily basis. Most of our customers are in the United States. We have some in Europe and some in Asia as well. So trust is everything. In today's cyber world, everything has to be trusted, right? You can't do business with people that you can't trust. So 98% of investors, we're talking about in the financial markets, agree that checking a hedge fund or other fund managers' backgrounds is essential part of the due diligence process. When we talk to investors, when we talk to funds, it could be private equity funds or fund of funds or financial institutions in general, they understand that when you want to get into business with a certain individual or company, you have to know as much as you can about their prior business, about the risks that could be associated with dealing with these people. And this is what actually we do at Intelligo. And how do we do that? We solve the problem of basically getting information about intelligence, about individuals and companies in a way that hasn't been done so far. In the traditional world of background checks, everything was done very much manually through very rigorous processes that took a long time and delivered reports that were very hard to understand. And COVID-19 especially brought to light the need to be able to get information in an automated way, because you couldn't really visit anyone, you couldn't really sit with anyone face to face. Everything was done remotely. People were working remotely. It's very important to be able to gather information in an automated way using artificial intelligence, using machine language and machine learning and big data. So this is what we do actually, and the problem that we solve. And what makes us different today? So first of all, our reports that we run on individuals and our companies are very fast because we use big data, and we go and we scrape the data from structured and unstructured data sources, and we bring all of that into the algorithm, which then checks all of that information, does the matching between the information and the people that we're looking to identify. And it's all done with artificial intelligence. So it's very, very fast. If we're talking about the traditional background checks that used to take 14 to 21 days, we're able to turn that around in a matter of hours on automated reports, and then a few days on a fully analyzed reports. We have better coverage. We're able to, through our algorithms, to accurately identify data from thousands of sources in real time, criminal records, legal records, financials, as well as news media, social media, and many other data points that we use to get our information. And the nicest thing is that we deliver it in a SaaS platform, in a very easy to use, easy to read, and easy to understand in a decision supporting manner, which gives you the capability to make quick decisions and well-informed decisions using a very, very neat user interface. Our product offering, actually, we have several products that we offer. First of all, we offer the Clarity platform, which is our SaaS platform to manage all of the data that we collect from all of the various sources. We have what's called Clarity Now, which is a fully automated, comprehensive report, which is untouched by human hands. So you could get results with that within a few hours. And then we have the Clarity Advantage report, which is a very comprehensive report, and it also goes through analyst review, and we have analysts with military intelligence background from the IDF. Our technology is, of course, deriving from military intelligence technology from the 8200 unit. And we have the Clarity Live, which is an ongoing monitoring platform, which enables us to actually put people on watch lists and identify in real time if something comes to light about these individuals. It could be anything legal, reputational, it could be on the news, or anything that relates to something that happens and is discovered by our systems. We immediately report about that, and that gives our customers the ability to be constantly informed about the individuals that they're interested in, and to get information directly into their SaaS platform. Some of our customers, you can see here, a lot of these customers are financial institutions in the United States. Some notable names like UBS, TD, Hamilton Lane. These are very well-known financial institutions. We also have GIC, which is the sovereign fund of Singapore. We have Willis Towers Watson in the UK, and other companies around the world that are using our technology and are very happy with it, and are actually reference customers, as you can see, that we are able to share their names with you. I'd just like to show you, as this is my last slide, just want to keep in time with the limited time that I was given. This is how the platform actually looks. So this is, you can see here that this is a report that we ran about an individual in the investment space. This is not a real person, so no need to worry about data privacy or anything like that. This is for demo purposes. Mr. Clark, you can see here there's an executive summary about this individual that was written by an analyst. And you could see a lot of red flags and yellow flags, which were gathered by the millions of data points that we go and collect from all of the digital information that is out there on the global internet. We could look at professional experience. We could verify employment, verify education. Look at all the legal records, find out what all the assets that this person has ever had, regulatory information, news media, everything that is related to this person we could bring to light, and we could give us a score, a red flag score or a yellow flag score for pertinent information that that you feel can be very important for making a decision whether you want to either hire this individual or invest with this specific individual. And of course, we could put this person on a monitoring plan and see all the information as it happens in real time. And everything is backed up with information and legal documents that you have access to from the portal. So every single thing that we found here is backed up and with hard evidence that you can easily access through the portal. So I think this was a very quick pitch about Intelligo. Hopefully, if you need any further information, please do not hesitate to contact me. My email address is on the screen right there, and you could go to our website at Intelligo.ai for any further information. And once again, thank you very much for the opportunity, and looking forward to connecting with you.
Thank you very much, Doron, for this indeed very impressive presentation. I'd like to know more about your project, but I think we have to do this later because we are limited on time, and I want to present to you our second company speaker today, Mr. Tilman Effa, who has been waiting patiently for his time to come. He is the director of the region of the German-speaking countries, the DACH, as we say in Germany, from the XM Cyber company based in Munich. He is also a very impressive career spanning over 20 years, beginning in aviation and having also various positions in the IT industry with SafeNet, CyberArk, or Exabeam, for example. So last but by no means least, Tilman Effa, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction. Let me share my screen. So good afternoon from my side. It was very interesting to listen, actually. So my name is Tilman Effa. I'm the sales director for the DACH region based in Munich. So what we do in XM Cyber, and you have heard our president, Parr, earlier, we bring a new approach that uses the attacker's perspective to find and remediate critical attack paths across on-premise and multi-cloud networks, meaning the knowledge we have from the past in Tamir's service, in the intelligence service, we use to look from an attacker's perspective into the corporate network. So what that means is the human approach to defense has not changed for the last 1,000 years and more. You will ask yourself, if you're responsible for the IT security in your corporate network, how will my adversary attack me? Because you just don't know. Where I am at risk to those tactics, and you will plan the defense strategy accordingly. and then take appropriate action. The questions also haven't changed. You will ask yourself, are my critical assets secure? And where do I start? Most companies lack the experience to know precisely how to protect the critical assets, the so-called crown jewels. That may be a customer database, technical knowledge you want to protect, etc. So where do we start to protect those crown jewels? And after you have taken the appropriate action, you want to know if you have closed the risk correctly, and you want to verify if everything has worked, what you have done. So most large enterprises and also the so-called Mittelstand in Germany use different tools to protect their network. But first of all, most companies are lacking experienced teams to manage all those security tools. Meaning you have spent a hell of a lot of money on security tools, but still you get compromised. So the answer obviously is XM Cyber. We provide continuous and safe attack simulation, even across hybrid networks, meaning it can be on-premise or in the cloud or both. We offer a cost-effective and fast and prioritized risk mitigation. That means necessarily that we find an attack path into your network towards the crown jewels or domain controllers, and we tell you exactly on what to do, in which order and how, even with screenshots for the not so experienced administrators. We also provide an executive reporting for the management, not to only justify the expenses on the solution, but also for the management to get an overview over the IT security situation as is. And very importantly, we integrate with the operational and technology ecosystem you have already in your enterprise. And we provide a very fast time to value via our SaaS platform. So that leads to the question who we are. So the company was founded in 2016 by Tamir Pardo and friends. And Tamir said earlier that if you know your enemy and you know yourself, then you will win every battle. So holding 35 patents on our technology means we know ourselves very well. And if you understand Tamir's background, we also know the enemy. So you can be rest assured that with our solution and our team, you will win all the battles in the future against IT attackers. That has led to numerous awards we have won, and we have got a recommendation from the World Economic Forum in Davos and have also won prizes from the European Commission for Research and Development. The product philosophy in XM Cyber is that we assume breach without deploying any malicious code. So just with our technology, we assume there is an attacker in your network. And now we do a continuous and safe attack simulation, focusing on your crown jewels. By that, we optimize the security process in your security operations center, and as such relieve the IT security and IT operations team from unnecessary duties they have done in the past. We identify immediately so-called choke points, which is clients and servers in your network, which have become open to an attacker he might use for reconnaissance and identifying additional machines in your network. So classical lateral movement until he finds the crown jewels and breaches them. And we are obviously proactive, meaning that we will identify those attack paths possible before an attacker does. Now, if you ask yourself, what are the characteristics of a successful breach? It is always the same, I can tell you for sure. Being 20 years and more in the IT security arena, I know for sure that it is mostly misconfigurations and bad IT hygiene. Clear text passwords never changed for the last 15 years, etc. You have vulnerabilities which were not patched in the past, because you may have 20,000 vulnerabilities in your network, depending on company size. But with XM Cyber, you can identify that only 8 vulnerabilities, maybe, are important to be patched. And that can be done quite swiftly. Versus 20,000, you cannot patch immediately and no one wants to start doing it. And obviously user behavior. That is a crucial factor. You have done many trainings for your employees and tell them do not click on any email attachments. Now guess what will the employee do? He will definitely click on any attachment he can find in the email. And that leads to an easy ransomware attack, and it can shut down the entire operation. And time is of the essence. So you should be one step ahead of the attacker. And you get that very clearly shown in our nice dashboard. You see the security score of your company in different colors and numbers. So you immediately can see if your network and the organization globally is at risk or not. Because we provide you with a view usually the attacker has. And we can show you how an attacker would move laterally in your network until he enters into the secured zone, which he should never be able of, and then compromises your critical assets. This is based on a true customer case study. So when the customer started deploying our product, which can be done very easily, 97% of the assets could have been compromised by the so-called virtual hacker. So our simulation identified that most of the network is at risk. And after just a few months, only 7% of the assets can be still compromised. So we all know in IT security, there is no 100%. Networks are dynamic and there will always be some red dots in your dashboards. But at least you have the overview and you are in control versus the time before XM Cyber when you were just in the co-pilot seat and watching what happens when an attacker enters into your organization. So I have mentioned earlier that we integrate nicely into your ecosystem. So if you have a security operations center with a CM, we can report our findings immediately into a CM platform. We integrate with SOAR platforms and very interestingly with endpoint security solutions like Microsoft Defender, ATP, CrowdStrike, Silence and others, meaning we enrich the endpoint security and we retrieve information from the endpoints. So we call that gegenseitig befruchten in German, meaning we can both use our knowledge and be stronger versus the attacker. If you want to know more, you can reach out to me or my team here in Germany. But we have an excellent reference customer, the well-known Hamburg port. That is critical infrastructure. It's a customer for the last 3 years. They were never compromised again after having rolled out XM Cyber solution. And it is very interesting to speak with the Chief Operating Officer of Hamburg Port. They have even prepared a nice PowerPoint presentation with XM Cyber. So they are very proud customer of ours. So if you want to learn more about XM Cyber, please feel free to reach out to me and we will introduce you to our reference customers. And with that, thank you very much and have a great day.
Thank you very much, Tim and Eva. Also very impressive. I mean, of course, I have to ask the question, we're not based in North Rhine-Westphalia, but in Munich. But maybe we can win here at a later stage to increase, enlarge the operations here and have also a company example for North Rhine-Westphalia proving the qualities of your product. Since we have no questions in the chat and nobody has raised, here is one question. Okay, let me just take this one. Oh, it's a long question. Okay, I think this question we would like to we will hand over the questions to Sharon Pardo. It's a philosophical questions for a detailed philosophical answer. I think this cannot be answered in the limited time that we have left. But apart from this philosophical question, I think our speakers have done a very good job in explaining everything that no questions were left open, and therefore I want to thank all of you again. Thank you very much, and would like to hand the floor back to our main organizer today, Gil Yaron, for his concluding remarks. Gil, over to you.
Thank you very much, Felix. We're now entering the summer, so my analogy may be a bit anachronistic, but I can assure you that what we've shown you today can only be the tip of the iceberg of what is there to offer in this really interesting and fascinating relationship between Israel and North Rhine-Westphalia. To our German listeners, I want to say there are more than or about 8,000 startup companies in Israel, and many of them could be interesting for your business. So we will, as an office, continue to work together with NRW.Global Business to try and bring more of these events to you, try and bring more ways for you to update your business to the newest technologies that are being developed in Israel, to keep abreast of the newest developments. And we're very happy that you joined us today, and we're very hopeful that you're going to join us for our future events and for our future networks. And please feel free to reach out either to our office and of course to the representative of NRW.Global Business in Israel, Mrs. Sharon Mazuri, who is always very, very helpful and has a very, very keen knowledge of what is going on here on the market. So thank you everyone very much. And I'm astounded that even though we are some Rheinische Frohnaturen and we are Israelis working together, we're actually finishing on time. So thank you all very much for your participation and hope to see you all again, hopefully very soon. All the best.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.